I am going to shoot straight with you here. Are you able to keep it totally real with me? Late in the day, on February 19th, 2021, the Salina cops rushed out after getting a 911 ring about gunfire and smoke at a property on Hickory Lane over in Texas. The guy on the line was none other than Michael Patrick Patton. He frantically claimed his wife, Tamara Jo Patton, took a bullet and their main bedroom was engulfed in flames. He even let the dispatchers know his pair of kids, 14-year-old Kendall and 13-year-old Evan, were trapped in the blaze. Sadly, once the fire crews finally breached the place, the entire trio had already succumbed to fatal bullet strikes. Meanwhile, the very dude who phoned it in was just lingering out front, clutching a weapon. Right on that identical 911 recording, the guy flat out admitted, "I wiped out my entire household." Yet the moment the cops started grilling him, he spun a tale about waking up holding a pistol, totally clueless about the gunfire or the blaze. Given his wild excuses, the authorities found themselves staring at a puzzle missing several crucial pieces. It meant he was either the victim of an insane setup or he actually pulled the trigger, panicked, and was scrambling to hit the undo button. Of course, there was solely one method to uncover the truth: dragging him downtown for a serious grilling session. Give me a sec to grab the tech who will swab your hands, and right after that, we can pop those cuffs right off. Alrighty, I will just wait right here. Cool, are you thirsty or needing anything right now? Some water, sure thing. Anything else at all? I am lost. There we go. Was that speedy enough for you, man? Do folks call you Mike or Michael? Mostly Mike. Got it, just Mike. All right, could you get up on your feet for a second? I am going to remove these restraints right now, all right? The moment these things are unhooked, I just need you to pop right back into that seat. Gotcha, totally fine. They are still slightly hooked. I will have you sit back down, swivel around, and I will undo the rest from the front. Here is the lady I mentioned a minute ago. She needs to run a quick swab on your fingers. Make sense? Are you cool with her going ahead and doing that? Trying to figure this out. What exactly is going down? All right, let her finish her job and step out, and then I am completely yours to clear up whatever's on your mind. So, are you nursing any wounds at the moment? Did you sustain any damage, or are you bleeding at all? Any scratches? Nope. Fair enough. Would you mind hopping up for a second? Could you pull your tee up just so we can do a quick visual check? Just double checking that you are not banged up. My main goal is to verify you are physically solid. Looks like a dark mark right on your side. Is that from a while back? Yeah, that happened a few days ago. A few days. Got it. What about your back? No gashes or scrape marks. I really cannot tell. Is it cool if I pull your sleeve up to check? Well, there is a mark right there that looks pretty suspicious. Do you keep a kitty wandering around the property? 3 pups, actually. Are you sure it is not a feline? Because that really resembles a sharp claw mark right on your flank. Back then, the investigator lacked any solid proof. Yet that quick physical once-over practically screamed that the guy had recently brawled with someone. Sure, he acts like a nervous wreck pacing the floorboards, yet he owes everyone a massive explanation. It is pretty clear you have got a bunch of things you were dying to ask me a second ago. I cannot even catch my breath here. Honestly, I really need someone to guide me through this nightmare since I am completely in the dark. Look, if we are putting all our cards on the table, none of us have a single clue about the situation either, simply because we have not had a real chat with you. Does that track for you? Yeah. Truth is, we are completely blind here. We have zero idea what went down. Our main goal was hoping you could shed some light on this mess, just like we are trying to shed some light for you. You are breathing super heavy right now. Are you dealing with asthma or some kind of underlying health issue? Are you just exhausted or absolutely panicking? My nerves are completely shot. I am totally lost here. Let me just set the record straight before we start volleying questions back and forth. So you confirmed you get your legal rights, and you are willing to talk this out with me. That is right. Let us go. Although, if I start freaking out, I might need someone to step in. You can pull the plug on this chat whenever you want. All right, then. So what were you asking earlier? You were firing off questions while we were walking up those steps. I have no idea what is going on right now, and my memory of the event is completely blank. The last thing that comes to mind is being at my job earlier today. So What exactly does your role in configurations entail? In a nutshell, my daily objective is to double check that all the details are perfectly accurate before we send anything out to the public. That could mean reviewing blueprints, official paperwork, or anything along those lines. Honestly, I am pretty clueless about the actual operations over at Raytheon. Are they primarily involved in building rockets, aviation tech, or military weapons? Also, are you currently holding down a position there? Would you say Raytheon operates as an independent business that basically handles projects handed down by federal agencies? Yes. Got it. So they primarily deal with federal agreements. Can you break down your specific responsibilities when it comes to the configuration side of things? Every 30 days, I lead a briefing with the Naval Forces. During that time, I review all the schematics connected to my projects to guarantee absolute precision. My main priority is verifying that all the labels are spot on, which keeps us legally covered. The feds tend to be pretty strict about those details, as you can imagine. That includes dealing with intellectual property laws and all those exciting administrative hurdles. Does your work involve top secret intelligence, or is it fairly standard? While I do hold the necessary security clearances, my present assignment does not involve any highly restricted information. Understood. Please excuse my lack of knowledge on the subject, since I was never really exposed to that world and am still trying to wrap my head around it. What path led you to that career? Did you serve in the armed forces at some point? Did your service open the door for this opportunity, or was it something else? Actually, I landed the gig a while after finishing college. Could the average person pull off your job, or does it require specialized schooling? I actually graduated with a major in engineering physics. Makes sense. So that explains the scientific background. It does not directly apply to my current daily tasks, but those skills certainly come in handy occasionally. I have a solid grasp on circuit boards and technical blueprints. Meanwhile, I am completely lost when it comes to electrical systems or structural loads. Did you ever spend any time in the service? Yes, I was actually in the Marines. What was the duration of your enlistment? 6 years. 6 whole years. Did they ever send you overseas? I sustained an injury during our training exercises, which kept me grounded. I twisted my ankle so severely that my recovery timeline pushed me right past our departure date. Because of that unfortunate incident, I never actually made it overseas with my communication unit. Your resume is genuinely fascinating, especially considering you jumped from serving in the Marines to working at a major defense firm. I do my best. Anyway, share some details about your own life, since I am completely in the dark regarding who you are, Michael. To be honest, I am just attempting to connect the dots and figure this whole situation out exactly like you are doing right now. Give me the rundown on your personal life. What kinds of hobbies keep you busy? What is your household situation like? And who are the people closest to you? My spouse and I started dating when we were just 19 and 18 years old. We are raising a pair of children together, and she works in healthcare. Our teenage girl competes in swimming and is quite talented. My boy is on the milder end of the autism spectrum, which means we have great days and incredibly tough ones, though putting on some tunes usually calms him. Are you a big record collector? I actually kicked off that hobby somewhat recently, roughly 2 years back. What is your estimated stash looking like? Probably around 40 or 50 records. Nice. I would not consider myself an obsessive vinyl enthusiast quite yet. The main reason I even brought it up is because my wife's dad worked as a broadcasting jockey for something like 34 to 40 years, which is a massive career. Eventually, he ended up needing a roof over his head during a transition period. Consequently, he crashed at our place for a short while. When he arrived, he lugged along all these timber boxes. I assume they were custom built since their dimensions perfectly match the width of standard records. The guy owned around 30 of those heavy bins packed to the brim with music, which we were forced to drag inside and eventually haul back out, and we all know what a nightmare relocating can be. He undeniably possessed a massive assortment of albums back then, though I suspect he has significantly downsized his stash by now. Beyond enjoying tunes, I love spending my free time with the children and marathoning television series whenever I can squeeze in an hour or so. Which program are you currently hooked on? We are going through Supernatural right now. Have you ever checked out that particular series? I am pretty certain that title has never even crossed my radar. Well, that has definitely been our go-to entertainment lately. I also boot up the console occasionally, though I would never call myself a hardcore gamer. It merely serves as a decent way to kill a few boring hours. Lately, I have been hitting the weights again in a dedicated effort to improve my overall physical health. Are you driving to a fitness center or sweating it out in your living room? Currently commuting to a facility, but we are actively shopping for our own equipment. We want to set up a comprehensive training rig out in the garage. So you mentioned earlier that your boy falls on the milder end of the spectrum. What is his current age? 13. 13, wow. When you use that specific term, what does his behavior look like in practice, considering how broad the diagnosis can be? What exactly are his unique challenges? He mostly struggles with intense nervousness, especially whenever we find ourselves trapped in heavily crowded public spaces. Furthermore, he experienced some notable setbacks regarding his early educational development. The kid remained completely nonverbal right up until his 4th birthday, which is why leaning on his favorite coping mechanisms usually does the trick. We definitely ride a roller coaster of amazing breakthroughs and total meltdowns. He also develops incredibly intense fixations on digital devices. What exactly captures his attention that strongly? Any kind of glowing monitor, whether he is glued to his mobile device or playing console titles. Exactly. Things along those lines. He practices Taekwondo and really seems to like it. It provides him with a bit of routine and concentration. Absolutely. It offers him particular routines to follow, and he gets the chance to drill them. So what age was your little girl? How old is she now? You mentioned earlier that she is involved in swimming. Yes, she just turned 14. What exactly is her routine? I mean, regarding her specific swimming techniques, why did you phrase it like that when I am simply attempting to get a sense of who your relatives are? I have absolutely no background on them. You brought up her age a moment ago. I honestly have no idea why I even asked that. I am merely attempting to understand your household dynamics. I was genuinely hoping to learn a bit more about your background. She competes in various races when the tournaments are available, and you can just sign the kids up for whichever races they prefer. The whole setup is pretty informal. Of course, occasionally the instructors might request her for specific races using various techniques, kind of like what Michael Phelps does with the butterfly and all those moves. Right, there are basically just 4 main techniques. Curiously, Michael speaks about his kids in the present tense, as if deep down he believes they are still breathing, which points to one of 2 possibilities. Either the man is completely detaching himself from reality, or he is prepared to keep up this charade indefinitely. Catching on to this, the investigator realizes that sugarcoating the situation is absolutely useless. What do you suppose is the reason for our meeting today? I am honestly having a hard time grasping why we were brought in here. Are you saying you have zero recollection of what happened today? All that comes to mind is how my daily routine has been going recently. I have been having a rather tough time lately. I have been putting in the effort to improve things. I started attending therapy sessions. I might have skipped the last couple of appointments, but I have generally been going to therapy. We had a really rough patch over the weekend. She grabbed one of the firearms and claimed it was her only escape route. She insisted that confronting it head on was the only solution. I refused to let her out of my sight. I continuously attempted to wrestle the weapon out of her hands. It took me around 2 hours, but I finally managed to disarm her. You see, the reality was that if I contacted the authorities to get her some professional assistance, they would revoke her personal permit immediately. I was completely at a loss for what steps to take. Her closest buddy dropped by and ultimately crashed at our place until morning. I am pretty sure that happened on Sunday evening, since she hung around the entire day. The following morning, while we were busy with work, I kept a very close eye on things. I have been terrified that she might actually do something to harm herself. I secured the firearms, and I am not entirely sure who her closest companion even is. I believe her name is Heather. They might be coworkers, or perhaps they go way back to their high school or junior high days. All right, do you happen to know Heather's family name? She went through a divorce, but I am fairly certain she kept it. She is over at her mother's house right now. So you believe this whole incident took place this past weekend? Yes, just a few days back, most likely on Sunday evening. All right then, do you have any idea what day of the week it is currently? Could it be Thursday or Friday? Exactly today is Friday. His account of the events is incredibly hazy, offering barely any specifics regarding that evening, yet he elaborates extensively on the steady collapse of his marriage. However, the investigators quickly discovered hidden layers to the narrative, and these fresh details emerged not from the husband, but directly from Tamra's inner circle, specifically from Heather and Gina. What exactly is the dynamic between those two? Well, I discovered the truth back in October. That was when she finally confessed they were struggling and that she had been miserable for a really long time. However, it was not until the previous year that it dawned on her that their relationship had crossed the line of no return, meaning it was completely unsalvageable. The primary reason she held off on packing her bags sooner was to ensure he was in a stable enough headspace to handle life independently once she was permanently out of the picture. This approach would guarantee he could remain a capable and present father to their children, especially since he had always been wonderful in that role. When you bring up his mental stability, what exactly are you implying? Meaning she wanted to make sure he would not attempt anything drastic against himself. I see. Therefore, her primary concern centered around the possibility of him inflicting damage upon himself more than any other issue. Did he actually possess a track record of suicidal tendencies, or is this merely an underlying fear she held on to? It was purely a deep-seated worry on her part, a genuine feeling that he might resort to such extreme measures. In other words, his psychological well-being was heavily weighing on her mind. He has consistently proven himself to be a wonderful father figure. Is there any documented past involving aggressive behavior or physical outbursts, aside from whatever he experienced during his time in the Marine Corps, considering he kept those stories completely under wrap? I am aware she might have been privy to certain details, but I am specifically asking about any physical altercations inside the household. Got it. Is there absolutely anything you personally witnessed or learned about that could be considered alarming? Did his behavior ever frighten or trouble you in any way, or did these feelings only arise when she started sharing certain specific incidents? For example, she confided in me about how he trapped her inside the wardrobe just the other evening and continued rambling for nearly 4 solid hours about everything. He trapped her inside the wardrobe just to argue about saving their failing relationship. That is absolutely correct, though she never claimed he actually put his hands on her during the entire disturbing incident. He simply refused to back off and trapped her there because she desperately wanted to avoid talking. Basically, they have been fighting constantly because he wants to stay together while she wants out. So what day did this occur? I believe that happened on Tuesday, but I need to know the exact date you last visited her face to face. I actually saw her this past Wednesday, and things looked totally normal after I arrived late Tuesday evening while he crashed on the sofa. She and I shared the main bedroom, and all three of us actually enjoyed a rather pleasant chat the following morning. We were even laughing about those viral feline attorney videos, making it feel like an entirely typical start to the day. The guy brewed some coffee for us, and the whole vibe felt so incredibly calm that I completely missed any warning signs. Did you head over to their house for a particular reason, or was it specifically because he trapped her and refused to back down? I usually act as a reliable mediator to help diffuse the tension, which finally provided her with the breathing room she desperately required. The moment I arrived, it was painfully obvious she had spent hours weeping since her face was completely swollen. She explained that escaping felt impossible right then, despite knowing she had to get out, and her misery was absolutely palpable. They started dating at 18 years old, but she confessed that his behavior had become incredibly dominant and suffocating. If my memory serves me correctly, she actually brought this specific issue up several months back. There was definitely a conversation where she hinted that his aggression had crossed the line into actual violence. She never provided the exact details, though the heavy implication prompted me to urge her to expose the truth immediately. It honestly appeared as though she was completely paralyzed, trapped in a toxic cycle that had dragged on for years. To be completely honest, I lack any real background information regarding her spouse, lacking even his basic first name. Listening to her describe their dynamic made her utter despair obvious, and she claimed a single escape route remained. She threatened to finish everything permanently while insisting it was her sole option, constantly repeating her apologies over and over again. This remains my only option because continuing this nightmare is impossible, and everything will conclude shortly after taking just one final step. My husband refuses to release his grip on me, she sobbed, firmly rejecting my offer to drive over due to dangerous roads. Despite my firm insistence on visiting, she continually tried reassuring me by claiming everything was absolutely fine and entirely necessary. Heather, I completely ignored her protests and firmly declared my intention to head straight to her location regardless of her warning. Once you two finally reunited face to face, did she bother clarifying any specific details regarding that disturbing incident? She merely complained about his endless rambling regarding saving their partnership, demanding she try harder while rehashing their tired old arguments endlessly. It was a constant bombardment of pressure, though he remained entirely silent and never confessed a single detail to me about their dramatic altercation. Did you happen to catch her exact location? Because I heard she was resting quietly atop the mattress in her private room. She had actually propped herself upright, so did you happen to notice any unusual details regarding her physical state? Did her messages clarify her intended methods, or did she remain elusive aside from mentioning his confiscation of the firearm? That definitely implies she possessed a weapon, but can I find that specific detail among the captured images you forwarded? We actually discussed that matter directly out loud during my physical visit to the property. So she openly admitted to owning a pistol, though she only clarified that Mike had physically removed the weapon from her. Did you interpret that as him physically ripping the weapon right out of her grasp? Because I totally failed to demand those specific details. The witnesses painted a grim picture of a marital bond that had morphed into a literal detention center. Michael suffocated Tamara so severely that she regularly retreated into her personal wardrobe just to secure a fleeting second of absolute silence. Her misery deepened into intense claustrophobia, eventually driving her down a dark path where suicide felt like a highly viable option. Meanwhile, Michael remained entirely oblivious to her pain, or he simply orchestrated a masterful illusion to fool the public. That disturbing event unfolded late Sunday evening, leaving me wondering if you alerted authorities or merely confided in your close companion. Her overall mood steadily improved as she started sharing her hidden feelings, convincing me that our situation was finally taking a positive turn. She finally committed to attending joint therapy sessions after spending 4 frustrating weeks constantly changing her mind about seeking professional help. She officially promised to attend the counseling sessions right before giving me a rather unexpected piece of advice. She warned me her truths might hurt, yet she still participated simply to honor how much I valued the entire process. Consequently, I plan to investigate those therapeutic options, which seamlessly brings us back to your previous statement regarding the firearm. Where exactly were you keeping them?
Well, I kept one up in my workspace, and even though I haven't touched it lately, it's been up there for a couple of months.
It was sitting in the spare guest room on the second floor, while the second piece was stashed away inside a duffel. My intention was to toss them in my pickup and hand them off to a buddy just to hold on to until things calmed down. I genuinely thought she was improving. What is the total number of firearms in the house? 2. Are we talking pistols or long guns? Pistols, exclusively. Can you identify the makes? We hit a brick wall. Did your spouse ever exhibit any concerning behavior before this current week? A few years back. She dealt with some dark thoughts back then. Survived it. We managed to get past it together, overcame it. Did she ever receive any sort of professional psychiatric care or anything similar? She actually just began sharing stories about her past, back from her junior high or teenage years. She started seeing a therapist lately and finally confessed to me that she suffered childhood trauma. Understood. And that completely explains her refusal to attend couples counseling with me, simply because the whole process makes her uncomfortable. Based on her accounts, it was physical trauma. Any idea who the perpetrator was? Was it a relative or a romantic partner? My guess is her father's buddies, possibly her stepfather too. She shared one specific incident from her time staying at her dad's place up in Michigan. She mentioned a guy next door she babysat for and waking up with him standing above her, plus a few other situations she kept extremely vague. Wow. So we're talking about various incidents involving several different men, which means she carried a heavy burden, but as I mentioned, we fought our way past it and I kept trying to fix things. From Michael's perspective, his actions were flawless, focusing on self-improvement to support his loved one. However, the exact actions he viewed as dedication, Tamara perceived as sheer manipulation. Eventually, based on Gina's account, Tamara reached her breaking point and stopped hoping for a miraculous turnaround. Did she ever share any details regarding their future intentions? Were they actively attempting to salvage the relationship? Was a divorce on the table? Did they start discussing how to split up their property? What exactly was the situation? She essentially told me she put in years of effort. They spent countless years attempting to fix the marriage, and she simply hit her absolute limit. Those were basically the exact words that came out of her mouth. She also explained how she desperately wanted an out, while he kept playing the victim to trap her, even though her romantic feelings had vanished at least 12 months prior. Can you pinpoint an exact time period when she finally dropped the bomb on it? Did she tell him the marriage was permanently finished, or did he firmly believe they were still actively repairing the damage? The way she phrased it, she had repeatedly made it crystal clear to him about her misery and her decision to walk away. Well, during our text exchange yesterday evening, she actually wrote that she informed him it was over. I mistakenly assumed she meant she finished her job tasks, especially since she spent all day grinding to catch up after the recent power outage. Because of that, I completely brushed it off until Heather clarified the situation. She had clearly ended the marriage, which makes sense since she confided the exact same feelings to Heather, who obviously understands her on a deeper level. That completely caught me off guard. She sent a message earlier expressing doubts about joining our plans tonight due to her massive workload. I assured her it was totally fine, and we managed to delay our dinner booking, which eventually convinced her to join us. She enthusiastically confirmed her attendance and went on about the details. She mentioned stepping out of the bath, warning me she might run a bit behind schedule, but promised to show up. Oh, and she promised to shoot me a message before hitting the road. Tragically, Tamara never actually arrived for that scheduled dinner. With that grim realization hanging thick in the air, the investigator finally pivoted to aggressively confronting Michael regarding the true events of that evening. All right, Mike, do you mind guiding me step by step through your memories of today just so we can start making sense of the reason you are sitting in this room? I vaguely recall collaborating with a colleague, then I believe I hopped in the washroom to get clean before heading back downstairs. My spouse and I had a brief discussion regarding our desire to purchase an upgraded bed. Our current setup severely lacks firmness. It sags tremendously right down the center. My mind is totally blank. Does your memory frequently completely wipe out the events of your day? You strongly sense that something occurred. A similar situation took place just a couple evenings ago. Right around the time her closest pal dropped by, I was still fully conscious. The exact hour escapes me, but the two of them ended up falling asleep together in the master bedroom, and I absolutely hated the idea of invading their space. Consequently, I prepared the sofa cushions right before crashing there for the night. I completely blacked out, and my spouse eventually walked into the living room to look for me, only to discover my body sprawled across the carpet. How did that occur? I literally fainted. I honestly have no clue. Exhaustion completely took over. I vividly recall being on my feet and mentally telling myself to hit the sofa. The next thing I knew, I regained consciousness flat on my spine. No idea why. Maybe around 4 o'clock. Just a moment ago, you mentioned getting those marks on your back from your pets. So exactly how many dogs do you own? I have 3 pups in total. The breeds are a couple of pugs along with a single bulldog. So that is a pair of pugs plus a bulldog, and I am guessing they are exclusively indoor animals, correct? That sounds like a massive headache to keep that many pets cooped up indoors, but my mind is really wandering right now. What do you suppose is causing this inability to concentrate, and why is your memory of today totally blank? Well, you are questioning my recall abilities, but this amnesia is not a constant issue for me. It just happens on occasion. Back in my high school days, I suffered a severe head injury, which permanently messed up my ability to form long-term memories. My spouse actually gets incredibly frustrated about this specific issue, since we will have a full discussion and I will forget it entirely. Within an hour of chatting, it is gone from my brain, so I need to go over the main point of this chat again. My main objective here is to simply get you to rack your brain as much as possible right now. Please try tracing your steps in order from the moment you got out of bed, covering all your activities and meals today. Walk me through your morning meal, your midday break, and your job duties. So we might be able to construct a timeline. Let us figure out the events of the day and uncover the root of this mental block. Starting with your morning meal, what did you consume? I skipped eating in the morning completely, though I did grab some toasted bread around 11 o'clock. Did that count as your midday meal? My mind is completely blank on that. And as for supper this evening, I seriously doubt I had any food. It is truly astounding how the suspect possessed crystal clear recollections of his entire past, magically forgetting only the crucial evening in question. His career heavily relied on retaining highly technical networks in his brain while managing endless moving parts. Therefore, his sudden bout of amnesia felt incredibly fake, especially since his close friends swore they had never witnessed his memory failing before. Are you aware of any underlying health issues or chronic illnesses that he might be suffering from currently? I am completely clueless about any sickness, whether it involves his bodily health or psychological well-being. There is a solid chance he suffers from post-traumatic stress disorder due to his armed forces background. What exactly leads you to that conclusion? It has been ages since we discussed it, but I recall him losing buddies during his brief deployment to the Middle East. Truthfully, a massive amount of time has passed since his service days ever crossed my mind. Understood. Would you say he struggles with any psychological defects, or is he generally considered a highly intelligent individual? The guy is exceptionally brilliant and sharp as a tack, but tell me, has he ever demonstrated a tendency to forget important details? Have there been instances where past occurrences just slip his mind? Because I have never witnessed anything like that personally. He definitely never suffered from cognitive failures or required psychiatric hospitalization, at least not during the time I have known him. We have actually been in each other's lives since I was 17 years old. Wait, you have truly known him since your teenage years? So what is your current age, which happens to be 34, though I probably should not be asking a lady her age. My 35th birthday is coming up soon, but getting back on track. Do you two ever find yourselves repeating discussions just 5 seconds later because his brain reset instantly? He never did that to my face specifically. Well, could you elaborate on what you mean by that distinction? It was mostly a situation where his wife would speak her mind and he would blatantly disregard her words while continuing his own rant. I see. So despite blowing off his spouse, his memory functioned perfectly fine during everyday chats with the rest of our friend group. In fact, there were plenty of times his memory outperformed mine on random trivial details. That makes total sense. Considering the extensive background information the two witnesses provided regarding the toxic dynamic of the marital relationship, things looked grim. The narrative he provided was completely crumbling under the pressure. He abruptly shifted tactics, pleading to speak with someone because his mind was supposedly blank and he felt utterly lost. Can you at least recall law enforcement officers arriving at your residence earlier tonight? My only memory is getting slammed face first into the concrete pavement outside. Pay attention to me now, buddy. I am about to lay all my cards on the table, so I expect the exact same level of honesty from you. You dialed 911 earlier this evening, and you specifically admitted something extremely dark to the emergency operator on the line. What could possibly drive a man to confess such a permanent and drastic intention over the phone? Over the past 10 years, I have seriously considered ending it all on 3 separate occasions, and tonight was absolutely one of those moments. You are saying you reached your breaking point thrice over a 10-year span without acting on it, so explain what triggered those specific dark periods. The first instance happened right before I decided to pursue higher education again. I was completely thrown under the bus by someone. My supervisor absolutely blindsided me when things were going phenomenally well, leaving me totally exposed and unable to defend my livelihood. I let down my spouse completely, and I totally disappointed the children. Our money situation had gotten incredibly desperate at that point. Handling that burden proved too difficult for me, feeling like a massive punch to the gut. Whispers were going around town claiming my partner hooked up with somebody from her job, even though she denied everything. The whole ordeal added another heavy layer of anxiety. That definitely builds up the tension. So what made you want to take your own life this afternoon? I honestly have no idea. My mind is completely blank. My goal is to assist you here, though you need to make an effort to search your memory. Tracing back my steps is exactly what I kept doing while sitting inside the rear of your cruiser. This entire situation makes zero sense to me, so can you recall a single detail from this morning? Putting meals aside for a second, did your spouse log in from the house today since she usually stays indoors? Her position has always been completely virtual. She logs in from her desk every single morning without fail, and today was certainly no exception. Her regular time off falls on the weekends, right? Since this afternoon is Friday, she was definitely on the clock, but were you two sharing an office space? We decided to share the bedroom recently to keep our utility bills down during that nasty cold snap. Sticking together in one spot meant we could avoid turning up the thermostat and wasting expensive power. I took the recliner while she relaxed across the mattress, and we just joked around having a good time. Firing off goofy messages to her phone right across the room is a habit we always enjoy doing together. Joking over the phone simply keeps our relationship feeling fresh and exciting. Whenever she gets stuck on a conference call, speaking out loud just is not an option for her. Does her daily schedule involve taking virtual appointments with clients, or does she consult for those big medical corporations? We are definitely making progress now that your brain recalled shooting those messages over to your partner this morning. Assuming that happened right after sunrise, can you picture her outfit, or are things getting way too confusing? Could someone bring an attorney in here for me right now? I need legal counsel immediately, since this entire nightmare feels way beyond my basic understanding of reality. Exercising your constitutional rights is totally fine, and we will happily arrange for a defense attorney to arrive. Anyone with a brain could see right through his obvious attempts at dodging responsibility for the gruesome incident. His theatrical amnesia routine was practically guaranteed to hit a massive brick wall very soon. Everything is completely calm right now, but I must officially place you in police custody before transport. We are heading straight to the county lockup because your official charges have been upgraded to capital homicide. Your ears totally perked up earlier when my grammar slipped into the past tense by total accident. Listen to my instructions very carefully and follow every single step I give you next, buddy. Get up out of that chair immediately and spin yourself around until your nose points at the drywall. Keep your palms off the paint and simply stare straight ahead while keeping your balance steady. I swear to God that I never laid a single finger on that person at all. The wildest part involves him thinking he could trick trained professionals after literally dialing 911 to confess. Slapping on the steel bracelets did nothing to stop his incredibly foolish charade of total ignorance. Keep your balance steady, and if your knees feel weak, park yourself right back onto that seat. Are those words directed at my face? Because I am desperately praying this is all some terrible nightmare. Your little girl passed away, and I swear to you that I would never do such a horrible thing. That final chilling exchange officially slammed the book shut on their intense questioning session. The judge eventually threw him behind bars for the rest of his natural lifespan without any chance of early release. I deeply appreciate everyone tuning in, so smash that thumbnail to catch another wild documentary from the channel archives. Begging you, just say it is a lie. That little girl of yours passed away. God, no, I could never do that. The guy sitting right there is 39-year-old Michael Patton, somebody who literally went from being a genius aerospace engineer to a literal family annihilator in a flash. Just hours prior to sitting in that chair, cops had walked through his front door to discover his spouse, children, and animals gunned down. It is a slaughter he actually believes he can slide away from clean. However, despite all of his wild stunts, he is about to face charges for the ultimate crime. Chapter 9. The investigators are about to connect every single breadcrumb he left lying around, exposing that this beast is far from the loving dad he acts like. You dialed 911 and mentioned to the operator what you needed. She had spent over a year trying to protect him from himself while trying to protect herself from him. The night before the killing, she sent a message that said it was over, and no one understood it in time. Investigators found a man who had rehearsed confusion, but whose body carried the evidence of a struggle. Scratch marks, a 911 admission, 2 firearms, and a community of witnesses who had seen the warning signs for months. The most dangerous moment for a victim is when they finally decide to leave. Coercive control does not always leave visible marks, but it leaves traces in the people who were trusted enough to be told. Tamra told her friends, she reached out. She made plans. She was not silent. She was not heard in time. If someone you love is describing a relationship where they feel trapped, monitored, or afraid to leave, take it seriously. Offer a safe plan, not just comfort. Coercive control is a recognized pattern that often escalates without warning. Tamra deserves safety. Kendall and Evan deserved a future. Their lives matter beyond the details of this case. If you or someone you know is experiencing coercive control or domestic abuse, please reach out to the National DV Hotline at 1-800-799-7233. Share this story so that the next person who is told does not look back and wonder if they could have done more. On the 19th of February 2021, a man called 911 and confessed to killing his entire family in a single breath. Michael Patrick Patton was a 39-year-old aerospace engineer, a former Marine, and a father of two. Within hours of the killings, he sat in an interrogation room claiming he had no memory of what had happened. His wife, Tamra, his 1 4-year-old daughter, Kendall, and his 1 3-year-old son, Evan, were all gone. To the outside world, Michael presented as a dedicated husband and father who was fighting to save his marriage. But to Tamra, that same dedication had become a prison she could not escape. He had trapped her in a closet for hours, monitored her movements, and refused to accept that the marriage was over. Tamra had quietly confided in her closest friends that she feared what he might do if she truly walked away.